tenant can cost you $15,000 and 6 months of your life. That's not hyperbole, it's a conservative estimate. Eviction costs alone can hit $7,000 to $10,000 in California, before factoring in lost rent, property damage, and the sheer mental drain. You think you're saving money by cutting corners on screening? You're setting your bank account on fire. Here's exactly how I screen every applicant, step by step, to ensure you don't become another statistic. Before you ever advertise a vacancy, before you even think about showing the property, you must define your screening criteria. This isn't optional. It's your legal shield in California. Without documented, objective criteria applied uniformly, you open yourself to fair housing lawsuits. Imagine explaining to a judge why you rejected one applicant with a 620 credit score but accepted another with the same score, without any written policy to back your decision. You will lose. Your criteria should be written, specific, and directly related to an applicant's ability to pay rent and care for your property. For example, minimum credit score, e.g., 650 FICO, verifiable income, e.g., 3x monthly rent, no prior evictions, no violent felony convictions, and positive rental history from non-family landlords. These are not suggestions, they are your guardrails. A landlord in San Francisco was recently fined $20,000 for discriminatory screening practices, specifically for rejecting an applicant based on a perceived disability, without any objective, written criteria to defend the decision. Don't be that landlord. Your criteria must be non-discriminatory and applied equally to every single applicant, every single time. Now, once your criteria are locked in, you're ready for the next step. The rental application is your first formal interaction, and it's fraught with fair housing landmines if you don't know the rules. In California, you can ask for information directly related to an applicant's ability to pay rent and their suitability as a tenant. This includes current and previous addresses, employment history, income, references, and authorization for background and credit checks. But wait, there's a catch. You cannot ask about protected characteristics like race, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, familial status, disability, sexual orientation, or source of income beyond its amount and reliability. For example, asking, "Are you married?" is illegal. Asking, "How many children do you have?" is illegal. Asking, "Where are you from originally?" is illegal. Stick to the facts relevant to tenancy. Furthermore, California AB 2559 dictates that you cannot charge more than the actual out-of-pocket costs of running a background check and credit report. As of 2024, this fee is capped and adjusted annually for inflation, typically around $50 to $60. You cannot profit from application fees. I know a landlord in Orange County who charged a flat $100 application fee, thinking it was reasonable. She faced a class action lawsuit from rejected applicants, alleging she was profiting illegally. The settlement cost her over $50,000. Your application must clearly state the screening criteria and the non-refundable nature of the fee, along with a disclosure that the fee covers the cost of reports. If an applicant provides their own current and verifiable credit report, you must accept it and cannot charge them for another, provided it was issued within the last 30 days. This is a critical detail many landlords overlook. This is where the rubber meets the road. Once you have a completed application, it's time to verify everything. First, the credit report. A common minimum FICO score I recommend is 650. Below that, you start seeing higher risks of late payments or defaults. But it's not just the score. You need to read the report. Look for bankruptcies, collections, and a history of late payments. A single medical collection from 5 years ago is very different from multiple recent collections for utilities or previous landlords. Next, the background check. This should include criminal history, eviction history, and sex offender registries. Focus on convictions, not arrests. California law limits how far back you can consider certain criminal convictions. Generally, non-violent misdemeanor convictions older than 7 years cannot be used as a basis for denial. Eviction filings, however, are a bright red flag. A single eviction filing often indicates a tenant who knows how to game the system. Finally, income verification. The 3x rent rule is standard. Your applicant's gross monthly income should be at least 3 times the monthly rent. This ensures they can comfortably afford the rent and still cover other living expenses. Demand pay stubs for the last 3 months, bank statements, and if self-employed, tax returns or a profit and loss statement. Don't just take their word for it. I had a landlord client who approved an applicant based solely on a letter from a new employer. Turns out the employer was a friend, and the income was fabricated. The tenant paid 1 month's rent, then stopped. It took 6 months and $8,000 to evict them. Verifying income isn't optional, it's essential due diligence. Most landlords treat reference checks as a formality, and that's a costly mistake. You need to ask the right questions and interpret the answers, or lack thereof, correctly. Always call previous landlords, not just the current one. Why? Because a current landlord might just want to get rid of a bad tenant and will give a glowing, dishonest review. Call the landlord before the current one. They have nothing to lose by being truthful. Ask specific questions. Did the tenant pay rent on time every time? Did they give proper notice before moving out? Did they leave the property clean and undamaged, beyond normal wear and tear? Would you rent to them again? Pay close attention to hesitation, vague answers, or an overly enthusiastic endorsement that feels insincere. If a previous landlord says they were fine, that's a red flag. Would you rent to them again is the most critical question. A no or a pause is all you need to know. Also, verify employment references. Call the HR department or the applicant's direct supervisor, not just the number provided on the application, which could be a friend. Confirm their position, salary, and length of employment. A landlord in Sacramento once bypassed calling the previous landlord because the current one gave a stellar review. 2 months later, the new tenant stopped paying rent and caused $4,000 in damage. The previous landlord, when finally contacted during the eviction process, revealed the tenant had been evicted from their property for non-payment and property damage. Don't rely on one source. You've gathered all your data. Now it's decision time. This is where your predefined screening criteria become paramount. Compare every applicant against those objective standards. If an applicant meets all your criteria, you approve them. If they fail to meet one or more, you deny them. This process must be consistent. What if you have multiple qualified applicants? California law does not require you to rent to the first qualified applicant, but it does require your selection process to be non-discriminatory. Many landlords choose the highest qualified or the first fully qualified applicant. Document your decision-making process thoroughly. If you deny an applicant, you are legally required to provide an adverse action notice. This notice must explain why they were denied, e.g., credit score below 650, insufficient verifiable income, prior eviction record, and include the name and contact information of the consumer reporting agency that provided the credit or background report. This isn't optional. It's a legal mandate under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, and California Civil Codes. Failing to provide an adverse action notice can result in significant fines and legal action. Fair housing violations, even unintentional ones, start at $16,000 for a first offense. You cannot afford to be sloppy here. Your documentation is your defense. Recap. To summarize, first, write your screening criteria. Before you advertise, it's your legal shield. Second, understand California AB 2559. Application fees are strictly for report costs, not profit. Third, the 3x rent income rule is standard, but apply it consistently across all applicants. Fourth, conduct thorough reference checks, especially with previous landlords. Call beyond the most recent one. Finally, always document your reason for denial with an adverse action notice. Fair housing violations are expensive. Screening tenants correctly in California isn't just about finding a good renter. It's about protecting your investment and staying out of court. Powered by LeaseBase Intelligence.